Hello everyone and welcome back to another video, and in today's video we are going to be going through my round 16 AFL tips and predictions. So if you are going to enjoy this video, if you do enjoy it at the end, please do hit the like and subscribe button. I did all right last round, so yeah, we'll get into the reviews and then into the tips. We kicked off last round with the Friday night game, of course. And on the Friday night, the Blues, they really pulled away. They built up some percentage, and they absolutely dominated the Cats from the word go. Yeah, the Cats, they had swings of momentums at some times, but the Blues, they were just way too good, you know. As much as Geelong were disappointing, they're in a massive form slump. I think you just give all credit to the Blues. Like, I didn't even think the Cats were playing that bad. I mean, Carlton, they're by far the second best team in the comp. Do I owe them a bit of apology? However, I did get this tip right, so yeah, no one really saw a 60-point win, but you do have to sort of focus on the losers a bit. They were pretty disappointing, Geelong, and now they find themselves in 8 and 6 and coming really in danger of missing that 8. Then on Saturday we had the Lions taking on Port Adelaide, similar to the Carlton Geelong game, except that this one was just a complete blowout this time, and yeah, the other game was a blowout too, but it was more disappointing for the losers, I thought. Port, they're at home, they're in front of their fans, they'll never tear us apart. Well, that's not really true, to be honest with you, because the way they played is just disappointing. Yeah, you can have that performance out the blue, but a 79-point loss isn't good enough, and Brisbane, they're in some really good form, so yeah, credit to them. Yeah, no one got that scoreline correct. Only one person looked like they got that correct. So yeah, that was a bit disappointing for myself and the Power there. And I went with the Swans to win by 2. It's sort of a cagey affair. I didn't really get to watch this game. However, I heard that it was raining, and the Swans, they led the Giants by, wasn't it 9 goals? Like, this team, how did Richmond beat them? I will never know with all their injuries. Even when they did beat the Swans, they had quite a few injuries. I mean, Sydney, they're just unbeatable at the moment. They're 13 and 1. Yeah, GWS were a bit disappointing, I thought, you know, at home they probably could have put up a bit more of a fight. In the end, they did put up a bit of a fight, but the Swans just too classy there. And then I knew this was going to happen. I went with the D's by 9. Wasn't expecting the comeback from North Melbourne in that last quarter, by the way. So yeah, give credit to them. Melbourne, they were pretty disappointing. I thought that they did dominate this game in the second and third quarters. I think they were winning by like 30 at three-quarter time. And then I was really expecting them to everyone was expecting them to get a 50-point win or some crap like that along those lines. North Melbourne, they managed to fight it back, and yes, I get my scoreline correct. So, yeah, good win for Melbourne, but again, it's disappointing. It definitely does show they are in a bit of form slump. But North Melbourne, their form right now, you certainly don't want to be playing them because, you know, if you're off for a quarter or two early on, you know, you probably are going to lose now because you just got to accept them now. They're going to put up a fight. They've really changed around, and yeah, give credit to them. Just couldn't get it done in the end. I think we all knew that Melbourne were probably just the better team, even without Petrarca. Then, this is where my starts going better again. I went with the Bombers by 21. They actually won by 30. This was a really, actually really good game to watch. It was probably going to be the easiest tip of the round, but even though Essendon, they were pretty poor early on, well, they weren't even poor. I thought the West Coast, they're certainly putting up fights. Like, Essendon weren't even playing that bad in that first half. They trailed by 1. It was a really good game to watch. Just something that the fans want to see at the West Coast Eagles. So, yeah, credit to the Eagles. Essendon getting it done there in the end. Went with the Suns for the upset tip. That didn't happen, obviously. Now, obviously, most people said they did okay, considering they haven't won a game away from home. It was only 20 points. But I thought they were pretty disappointing. I know I did back them in, so obviously I'm going to say that. But Freo, they're an unreliable side, and I guess you just sort of expect them to win this. Went with the Suns for a bogey side just to win, but you got to tip upsets that sometimes, and that was pretty much my upset of the round. That didn't end up happening there, so give credit to Freo. Let's head on to next week's games, or next round's games, and round 16 starts off at the Gabba. We have the Lions taking on the D's. Now, the D's, they're in a massive form slump at the moment. Not a massive one. They have had 2 pretty big losses, obviously, and then that close win to North Melbourne. Which game, if that have gone on for, you know, another few minutes, you know, it would have been disappointing. I feel like they probably would have lost. I think North Melbourne held them scoreless in that final quarter, which was the first time North Melbourne have held a side scoreless since, I believe, 2019. So, yeah, it was pretty disappointing for Melbourne to go scoreless in that last quarter. Brisbane, they're in some exceptional form. 3 wins in a row. After that Hawthorn loss, Chris Fagan said, right, it's time. He was never worried early in the season. Now, they'll probably make the 8, let's be honest. And, they're only 7-6. They could still miss it, but you'd probably expect them to make it from here. So, yeah, this one being at the Gabba, if this was at the G, the Hoodoo, which probably isn't even alive anymore for Brisbane at the MCG, yeah, maybe Melbourne a chance, but I think this is just an easier tip. I mean, one highlight for Melbourne against North was that late quarter tackle by, I'm pretty sure I forgot his name, but the young guy who came in first game, which was an absolute highlight for Melbourne. Just got to tip Brisbane in here, and I think they're going to give Melbourne a hard shock. I seriously do. This may sound a bit stupid, but I'm going to go off the Lions to get a massive win. They're just in some really good form at the moment. Let's go with Brisbane for a 7-goal win. That may be a bit harsh, but they're just in form. Melbourne, they won't take that win over North Melbourne. It was disappointing in the end, even though they got the chocolates. But I'm going to go with Brisbane by a massive margin. It's at the Gabba. They don't really lose there anymore. Yeah, they started off slow, but I think they've won their last 3 or 4 there now. So they should get the job done here, and I'm going to back them in by 7 goals. Then at the G, we have the Cats and the Bombers. Now, the Cats, well, you look at their form record, and they are just disappointing. The only side they've beaten in their last, I believe, 7 games is Richmond. So, yeah, they were 7-0. Now they're 8-6. And I reckon if they do lose this game, they could make finals, but I'd actually call it off. I don't think they are going to make it if they do lose this game to a pretty informed Bombers side who have been disappointing, although they have been performing against some pretty good oppositions. The 26-point loss to Carlton, then that 11-point loss to Gold Coast at home, though, which Gold Coast have won all the games, so we'll give them respect to them there. But they managed to get the job done against West Coast, so credit to them. Oh, this one's going to be tough because both sides, they're really in form. You feel like if Essendon lose this game, though, that could pretty much set their implications for their season. They'd have lost 3 out of their last 4. Essendon and the Cats, they potentially could be losing Patrick Dangerfield, which doesn't help. Geelong have a pretty good record against Essendon. I know they're Bombers, they're the favourites in this one. It's at the G2, but I'm actually going to tip Geelong. I just generally think that they need to respond, and I feel like finals, it's on the line. They just need to settle their season down a bit, go 9-6. Just a bit of breathing space throughout the season. So I'm going to let the Cats get a close one, though. And the Cats, they have a pretty good record again against the Bombers. So I'm going to go with the Geelong to win here. Essendon, they'll probably win, but I'm going to go with Geelong in a bit of an upset victory, I guess you could say, at the G by 7 points. Then this game is on the this game is at People First Stadium, which I had saying Metricon Stadium, which sounds way better. We have the Suns taking on the Pies. It does say at the top right, to be confirmed. I don't know why Super Brew doesn't count in the games at the People First Stadium, but whatever. We have Gold Coast taking on Collingwood now. Both teams, they're not in the worst form. I mean, Gold Coast, they have lost a couple games, but again, they've been away from home, and they have not won a game away from home. If you want to make the 8, you at least have to win 2 games away from home, I believe. That's all you have to win. Gold Coast, they're still trying to find their away game to win, but they're home this time, and they're in a pretty good informed Collingwood side. To be honest, this game should be pretty good. I think that both sides are, looking to make it. I think Collingwood, they're pretty much trying to fight for that top 4 spot now, because they're pretty much made it. Gold Coast, they're still trying to fight for the 8. I could see the Suns getting up, but I feel like this one's tough because I'm pretty sure the weather's going to be like 24 up on the Gold Coast, so the conditions could get to the Pies. I'm going to go with the Pies to win in a close one. It's going to be a close game, I think. It's going to come down to the wire. I'm going to go with Collingwood by 3. And you know what? Stuff it. Collingwood will be trailing by 32 points at some point throughout the game, but they're going to come back and they are going to win this one by a close 3 points. Just going to back them in there, and Gold Coast, they'll suffer their first loss at home after going 6-0 at home, I believe. Next game at Marvel, we have North taking on the Dogs. Now, North Melbourne, they've been playing some much better footy. They've still been losing games, but they had that 1-point loss to Collingwood, then 3-point loss to Melbourne, and they actually came back in the Melbourne game. So a little bit of something to the fans to actually watch and them choking, which was good to see. Bulldogs coming off the bye, so they should be pretty nice and fresh, getting stuck into it. I think this should be a Bulldogs win here. I could see North winning with the form that they're in. Since, we saw the Bulldogs lose to West Coast last year, but that was last year. The Bulldogs, they're in some pretty good form. Their only really disappointing loss they've had in these last few weeks was to Brisbane. I thought that was pretty disappointing. As much as Brisbane are in some good form, to lose by 7 goals was a bit disappointing. Had that respectable performance against Sydney. So this one's a bit tough, but I think the Dogs just got to back them in here. It'll be a relatively close game. Let's go with the Bulldogs by 24. I think this should be a pretty cruisy win. North, they'll put up a good fight, but I think a 4-goal loss just seems right for North Melbourne in this one. And yeah, the Dogs will win by 24. Then at the MCG, we have Richmond taking on Carlton, the round 1 crash rivalry here. And last time these two sides versed, as much as it sounds stupid, it was actually only a 1-point win to Carlton, I believe. So yeah, obviously that was earlier in the year. Richmond just starting to play competitive games of footy. They're coming off the bye, which, most teams have actually struggled off the bye. But Richmond, they actually do okay when they come off the bye. But, they've been putting up respectable performances. They lost their game by only a couple goals to their last 2 opponents. I can't remember who they versed. I know they did play Essendon, who are big rivals in the Dreamtime game. They only lost that by 2 goals. So they definitely will put up a performance at the G. That's why I don't usually pick them to get thrashed. They're always going to be competitive. After they did have the big loss to Brisbane. Carlton, on the other hand, they're definitely the second best team in the comp by quite a bit. Not that far, but I think you'd pretty much lock them in to make top 4. I just think that the Blues, you got to back them in here, don't you? They're just going to be too strong. Again, I do think Richmond will put up a good fight. But I'm going to go with the Blues to win by 39 points. Should be a pretty sound victory for the Blues there. So yeah, I'm going to have to go with the Blues by 39. Then at Marvel, we have my Saints taking on the Power. Now, my Saints, we haven't been in the worst of form. We played the Suns, which was a bit controversial, obviously. We played Brisbane in our last game, which we actually scored more and we looked exciting in that last quarter. So can we bring that momentum off the bye into Marvel Stadium? Now, we are one of quite a few teams like Fremantle and, a couple other teams that just don't really play the bye too well. We did win off the bye last year, obviously getting that win at the SCG against the Swans, which I'm still stoked about. We got the job done there. But we're against the Power, who are just completely out of form. They've lost they've lost all of their games by over 5 goals. Right now, they're in pretty much opposite form of my Saints. So, yeah, this one's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a close one. It shouldn't be a blowout. We always seem to lose to Port at Marvel Stadium. I'm pretty sure our last win was against them at the Adelaide Oval in 2020. I could be wrong. I'm going to back in the Saints. I could be being biased, but with Port's form, if you had have said this game a few weeks ago, it would easily be Port. But it's at Marvel. We never beat Port. I just want to see us get a win. We're not making finals, but if we can get these few wins, if we can at least get 9 wins, I think I had in my mid-season layer prediction, I'll be happy. Let's go off the Saints in a little bit of an upset. I believe we are favoured. Go off the Saints by 8 points to get a win. I just think Power, they're in a bit of bad form, and I think we can really pip them if it is at Marvel. And, if we win this, maybe a little sneaky chance of finals. I don't know. That's not really anything to worry about now. I'm just going to go back in the Saints and get an 8-point win there. Then at the SCG, we have Freo taking on Sydney. This one should be a pretty good game. I think Freo, they're just a really unreliable side. Win, loss, win, draw, win, loss, win. It's just really up and down for Freo. Sydney, I don't know how many games they've won in a row now. I think it's 9 games in a row. So, yeah, they are absolutely on fire. You just can't tip against them. And, as much as Freo, they've been able to cause a few upsets, this should be a pretty easy Swans win. Again, if they do start off slow, which they didn't against the Giants, they kicked the first 2 goals, I believe. They definitely, I think, will lose against Freo. But it's at the SCG. You got to back them in by, let's go 26. I think that seems alright. I think Freo, they can't really win here. You just got to back in the Swans to go 41. I'm not going to tip against them until they legitimately play a good side like Carlton, maybe. They already thrashed earlier on in the year, so got to go with the Swans to win by 26. Then at the Adelaide Oval, I believe this is the second last game of the round. We have the Crows taking the Giants. No buys this week, so a lot of games to get through. It's at the Adelaide Oval, which does make it interesting, but the Crows, they've been in really poor form. They just lost to Richmond at the Adelaide Oval, and they had that disappointing loss. That was a very disappointing loss. They're coming off the bye. The Giants, well, they've been okay. You know, they did play the Swans, who were pretty amazing. You can't really take out much of that loss, although they were pretty disappointing at home to be trailing by 8 goals. As much as they did come back in the end, Swans, they deserved the win. You just got to back in the Giants, maybe an upset. The Giants, they play pretty good at home in the Adelaide Oval. Obviously, they did beat the Crows last year at the Adelaide Oval. I know they made finals, but I'm pretty sure after they won that game against the Crows, they lost their next 3, I'm pretty sure. So they had a pretty poor start to last season, but they got that upset in round 1, which kickstarted their season nicely. So I'm going with the Giants here. I think you just have to. It's going to be a close affair. Let's go with the Giants to get a 16-point win. And, yeah, they'll find themselves victors. Then at Optus Stadium, we have the last game of the round. We have West Coast taking on Hawthorn. This one should be a pretty interesting game because the Hawks are in some good form. But, you know, with the Eagles, the way they've been playing lately, yeah, they've lost 4 games in a row, had a couple disappointing performances this year. They can certainly put up a fight. This team's going to be much more competitive. This one is at Optus, which isn't really a fortress. They've lost their last 2, I believe, at Optus to my Saints. And I can't remember who. I'm forgetting a lot of things today. Apologies for that. So this one's going to be tough because as much as Hawthorn, they're in good form. They're probably the second best informed team. Maybe even third now since they are coming off the bye and the Blues. They've just been so good as of late. But I think you got to go with the Hawks. They're just going to be that stronger team at the end of the day. Let's go with the Hawks to win by 12 points. I actually think the West Coast, they'll play decent enough since they did play decent against Essendon. I believe Harley Reid's back for this game, which doesn't make things interesting too. So, yeah, let's lock it in. Hawks by 12. Anyways, that's going to wrap up my tip. So I went with the Lions by 7 goals, the Cats by 7, Collingwood by 3, the Dogs by 24, the Blues by 39, the Saints by 8, the Swans by 26, the Giants by 16, and the Hawks by 12. Let me know if you do agree with my tips or not in the comments. Please do hit the like and subscribe button if you did enjoy this video. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video.